The trail of the 3rd Army and the 19th Tactical Air Command of the 8th Air Force is marked by more than 40,000 white crosses, 40,000 dead Americans.
We were young and soldiers called to dedicate our lives in the name of God and country. Do what's just, boys. Go do what's right. A hot band of brothers waiting on our chance to add one more page unto the victory dance. Here am I, Lord, send me, send me. Victory lies in the spirit of the lives of the men who died for me.
Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?" And I said, "Here am I. Send me."
This is Michael Broderick, Marine Corps veteran, actor, and Gallant Few board member. You are listening to the New American Veteran. Now here's Carl Monger.
Hey, Carl Monger here with Gallant Few, your host for today's edition of the New American Veteran. And I am super excited today to welcome to the show. And I'm going to go, I have to introduce the Ranger first. So I'm going to introduce John Jackson first. John is a bat boy. John has a long history of supporting veterans, and in honor of a fallen Ranger, he established Comfort Farms, and they have a phenomenal program called STAGvets. He also has a TEDx talk that we're going to learn a little bit more about. And then next up is Steve Lewis. Steve is a civilian volunteer. They did a lot of coaching for veterans before they went in the military, and we'll learn a little bit about that. But he saw the TEDx talk, and he decided to reach out and find out if there was a way that he could help with STAGvets. So he is doing this thing called Long Walk for 22. And, you know, I don't understand why people want to go out and do this ruck march thing. Just, I had to do it, right? So it's not my idea of fun on a weekend, but you're doing something phenomenal. So Steve, let's go to you first, since I introduced John first, and tell us a little about yourself and what you're doing.
Well, I have a background in education, and I'm a longtime high school coach. I coach football and indoor track. And after 9/11, a large number of the players that I ended up coaching went into the military, deployed overseas, and came back not in the same condition that they went out. And it led me to slowly conclude that that veterans needed help and needed outreach. And so I decided to roll up my sleeves and get involved. And subsequent to that, I kind of put things together.
Hey, I'm gonna stop right there real quick, because I want to jump in, because you said you saw a problem.
Yes.
And you decided to roll up your sleeves and get involved. So
yes, I did.
Kudos to you for doing that, because there's a lot of people that go, "Oh yeah, I've heard there's a problem, or I see a problem." It's like out in my street in front of my house, right? There's somebody's trash can blew over. So there's a couple of pieces of trash out there. Nobody goes and picks it up. So I make sure and go and pick that up, right? So you see a problem, you go solve it. So thank you for doing that, especially when it comes to the veteran side.
Thanks. Like I said, I just saw that that there were issues, and subsequently I learned that there were upwards of 22 veterans a day committing suicide, and it astounded me and bothered me. And I said, "Hey, something's got to change here. I have to step up to the plate and help out." And so there were people that were beginning to do various walks and rucks across the country, and it was something I decided that I could do. And then I was looking around for people to help out, and was introduced to John. And I knew from the moment that we first spoke on the telephone, we talked for about 2 hours, and I knew within 10 minutes, this is the guy that I wanted to go to work for and help out. And he's done some really outstanding things down on his farm, and it's a great model for helping out veterans who need to be able to reintegrate into the community. So it is my pleasure to help publicize what he does and try to raise some funds for him to operate.
Okay, so John.
Yes.
Tell me about, first off, tell me about Comfort Farms. Tell me how it got the name and why you established that.
Okay, so May 8th, 2010, my Ranger buddy, Captain Kyle Comfort, got killed in Bastion. And so I had no idea that I would establish a Comfort Farms later on in the future. But as I started moving through my history, the only thing that I realized that I was having some issues myself. Chronic PTSD was one of them. I really didn't pay attention to that because, being in a fight, you really just push forward. But there were some other neurological things that was happening to me. Like I was having these, what they call micronystagmus, and I was having slight seizures that was happening. If the light was too bright, my eyes would just flutter uncontrollably. It felt like it was vertigo. I was spinning or in a room with an earthquake. And I'm just like, dude, I got to jump out of airplanes tomorrow. Like, what the heck's going on? Just pushing forward. Well, the Ranger community really started to get concerned about a lot of these things, and they pulled behind, sent me to neurologists, had to look at some things. And the guy was like, man, you know what, once he come back, he said, you are literally in the 19th percentile for having these serious issues with traumatic brain injury. That broke me, Carl. Broke me, because I couldn't deploy anymore. I couldn't jump out of planes. Not that I like jumping out of planes anyway, but I couldn't do all the things.
I've been on some flights. I was really glad to get out of that airplane.
Right. But I couldn't do what I needed to do as a Ranger. That was number one thing. And so I had to try to figure out what it is I'm going to do for the rest of my life. They gave me medical retirement, and I'm sitting here and I'm trying to figure out, all right, what's my purpose? How do I move forward? The VA had no plan, just more pills, more drugs, and all this type of stuff. And it really
you know how common that is. If I've talked to one veteran that's told me that story, I've talked to 10,000 veterans that have told me that story, because from what you described, and it's important, I want to stop and talk about this real quick, because that's the dirty little secret that soldiers don't talk about. Sailors, Marines, they don't. When you think about how many soldiers in the Ranger Regiment become the regiment sergeant major or the regimental commander, right?
Absolutely.
Very, very, very few. That's a tiny, tiny population. If you're in a RASP graduating class and you've got 50 Rangers in that class that are graduating, odds are none of them are going to become a regimental sergeant major. There's probably a pretty small percent of them that are actually going to do 20 years and retire, because it's a high risk environment. It's a high risk physically. It's a high risk brain wise, right? When you're talking about injury, it's a high risk professionally, because if you irritate somebody or if you do something that just doesn't quite fit in with the team, we used to joke back in the 80s and 90s about the Black Chinook would come take you away and nobody knew where you went. You just weren't there anymore. But you go through an injury, whether it's a wounding or whether it's a training injury, that is absolutely devastating, because it crushes you, because that's all that you wanted to be. And now all of a sudden the Army is saying, nope, you're not good enough. You're not strong enough. You're not well enough. Whatever it is, you're not X enough to stay here. So go away. Now you're somebody else's problem. And then the VA is like, well, here's some money and here's some drugs. So go away and don't bother anybody.
Right.
And then you're sitting at home, like you just talked about. What is my purpose? Why am I here? I'm not sure how old you were when you left, but I'm 20 or I'm 30 years old. And now I've got the rest of my life to say that I used to be a Ranger. I mean, that's like a death sentence, right?
Absolutely, Carl. Absolutely. You hit it right in the head. Part of being in the Ranger Regiment or any type of unit that has a high op tempo is, I live because my edge was sharpened all the time. And so you get back into this environment where you have to kind of sit behind a desk, and we could not, I'm sitting behind a desk, and all of a sudden it's like, what am I doing? I'm not doing the things that I should be doing, and I feel like I'm losing my edge. And so realistically, I decided to come up with creative ways on how to address this issue within myself, and also using myself as kind of like a platform for other vets who are like me. And I know this isn't the fix for everyone, but with the whole idea of conditioning, I never joined the military. I didn't become a ranger process. I didn't, when I joined the military, I didn't just go to MEPS and then the second day I just jumped in the Army. Had to go through basic training, had to go through airborne, had to go through RAS, had to get through all these things just to prove myself to be in the unit that I was with, amongst the heroes that I served with. But on day one of leaving the military, DD-14, hey brother, pound, you're a civilian again, and that does not work. So my approach to how I'm addressing this and how I can assist other organizations who are kind of addressing the same things is that we approach this thing as a reconditioning. So you get conditioning to be get conditioned to be a warrior. Now, hey, let's condition you to become an outstanding civilian and continue to do great things. And so with that in mind, the farm has an amazing ability to use almost as similar things as we do when we're training for war. We call it covert curriculum, because that veteran who's going out there who lost a whole bunch of buddies, he had to numb his feelings, he had to deaden his senses because he had to go back out there and fight the next day. Well, when he comes back home and he's with his family, well, those emotions just don't come back up. A lot of those things are dead. The feeling of intimacy with his wife, or being attached to his kids, those things. There's a 20-foot wall between feelings and being able to connect. And so with Comfort Farms, what we're trying to do is take that 20-foot wall and make it a 3-foot wall, so that way we can climb over that wall when we can and be able to give back to our families. I have veterans who I literally, at the farm, we raise pigs. And I go back, and one SEAL that I was working with, I gave him piglets. I said, hey buddy, we need these piglets for market. You got 4 of them. I'm giving you one breeding stock. You got these other 3 to raise for market. Or during this whole course of the year, this guy was out there feeding these pigs, loving these pigs, doing everything for these pigs. They grew to 400 pounds. And then instead of the black Chinook coming, the daggone, livestock trailer came, and we came to pick up the pigs. I'm going to tell you what happened, Carl. He cried. He cried. He cried. His soul, he purged his soul. And I looked at him. I walked over to him. I put my hands on his shoulder. I said, you know what, buddy? Welcome home. And he said, what do you mean, John? I said, I know those feelings haven't come up in a very, very, very long time. And it was that aha moment for him that was like, okay, I get it now. And really, that's the connection that we try to do. We don't tell vets, hey, this is going to help you out in your life. But the farm has this magical way of just working with vets and working with families to kind of bring everybody back together again. And that's the beauty of Comfort Farms. And I know Kyle, if he was alive, he'll be honored by the work that we're doing on the farm. And we're just one spoke in the big wheel of taking care of vets.
John, where's the farm located?
It's located in Milledgeville, Georgia.
And how does somebody, let's say they want to come work on the farm or they want more information about it, where do they go? What's the process to do that?
Okay, so first they can follow us on Comfort Farms Facebook page. They can go to Comfort Farms Facebook page. They'll send me a message, see what we have going on. They can go to STAGvets website, which is really not updated because I'm so got my head in the farm most of the time to update my website, but we're working on that. Super busy. But between Comfort Farms Facebook page, STAGvets Facebook page, and the link, they can get in touch with us anytime. And I try to I get all the messages and I try to respond within 24 hours of every message that I get.
So STAGvets, that's not like bachelor party stuff.
That word stag, actually, there's a huge generation divide because I'm like stag, the deer, and I'm thinking, strength to achieve greatness. that's where I'm at. And then like these older guys from like the 60s and 50s.
Hey, watch it.
They're like, man, do you know what stag means? And I'm like, no. And then I got told, and I'm like, oh, get your mind out of your gut. What are you talking about? But no, it's not a bachelor party, man.
All right. So you've also done a TEDx talk. Talk about the TEDx talk. Talk about the talk.
Yeah. So the TEDx talk was amazing. Emory University invited me to do a TEDx talk on agrotherapy and how.
Was that Gerald Keane that made that connection?
Gerald? No, I don't even know, man. I don't even know. There was
he's a leadership, an adjunct leadership professor there. You know, he was 175 battalion commander in the RCO right before 9/11.
No, I didn't even know that. No,
he retired as a 3-star. He was my boss when I first got there.
Wow, I had no idea. No, I was doing another event a year prior to the TEDx talk. I developed diabetes because of all the drugs and the lifestyle of being in the Army for 10 years, and I was having a diabetic episode. Almost did not make this one talk, but I pushed through, did what I had to do. I made that talk, and inside that room was a girl from TEDx who said, "You're doing a TEDx talk." And so from that, I got on the TEDx at Emory, went on ahead, and I did this talk. And it was Carl, I'll tell you what, I had to pull from someplace deep when giving this talk. I had to open up some worms for the greater good, a can of worms for the greater good of others. I put myself in a very vulnerable position. And it's one of those things that you have to hear to talk for yourself to kind of see where, the journey of where I am right now because of that. So.
John, that's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It is so important. I want to reemphasize what you just said there about you had to open up a can of worms for the greater good of others. And I think that particularly for those Rangers that are going to be watching this, we are called to a higher calling. When you took the first time that you memorized and repeated the Ranger Creed, it didn't say until I leave active duty. It's a always thing, right? So there's an expectation that you are a leader in your community wherever you are. And part of being a leader in your community means talking about the stuff that's really, really hard that you have been able to get through or that you're dealing with and have not yet been able to clear because other veterans, and believe me, every branch of the service looks up to Rangers. And in fact, I think it was a T-shirt that said, even SEALs need heroes too. And then I had a big Ranger scroll on there. But I believe very firmly that the population of veterans out there, they look up to Rangers, and it goes all the way back to World War II. What Darby's Rangers did, they've set the standard in everything that they've done. And we need you to continue to set the standard today. And darbyproject.org, go get into our network if you're not there yet, because we need to get you connected with these other veterans and veterans that participate in comfort farms. We want to be able to get them connected to any branch of the service with a veteran that's like them when they go home, when they go to wherever they're going to live. We can't allow them to isolate. We've got to talk about the things that we have addressed as threats coming at us, whether they're alcohol or the VA over-medicating or relationship problems. Well, gosh, I could go into so many things. One of these days I'm going to have to interview myself just so I can get all this stuff out. But it is so important that we're leaders in the community. And John, what you are doing, you are being a leader in the community, and you have my heartfelt thanks for that. And anything that I can do to help you out. I mean, and one of the reasons why we're doing this today is because we want to get the word out for Long Walk for 22 so people know how to support that effort. We want people to be able to go and make donations to help you, to refer veterans to come to you, and whatever kind of support that you need, we want to be able to help you achieve that.
Thank you, Carl. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So Steve.
Yes.
Back to Long Walk for 22. So tell us mechanically, what is this? Can people sign up and do it with you? Do they donate money to support you? How does it work?
Yes. In my own case, I'm going to be walking in 3 days. I'm going to walk 70 miles from Manchester, Connecticut to Providence, Rhode Island.
And when you say in 3 days, that's not 3 days from now. You're going to do that?
No, it's on Memorial Day weekend. So
okay,
it's
good.
26th, 27th, and 28th of May. And I'm going to have some people that are going to come and walk with me. Last fall, I supported the Walk of Life, which are the veterans from the 24th Infantry Regiment that walked across the United States. So a couple of those guys are going to come in and help out, and John's going to be in the area, so he's going to help out as well. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're really looking forward to it. And then this year we have set up a virtual walk, which people can register for either by themselves or as a team, and help raise funds for Comfort Farms and participate in that way. And then on our Facebook page, we have a donation button that goes right to Comfort Farms and STAGvets and helps John run his operations down there.
And say the name of the Facebook page?
Okay, it's New England Long Walk for 22.
New England Long Walk for 22.
Yes. Yep. And then I'll provide a link so that people can go right to the Facebook page and find us.
Nice. Well, Steve, thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Anything else? Did I miss anything? What should I have asked you that I didn't ask?
I think you pretty much covered everything that needs to be covered, Carl. And I really appreciate your having myself on and being able to talk about some of the good things that we're working on for this spring.
John, how about you?
No, Carl, you've addressed everything, man, and thanks for paying attention to this situation with delicately and paying a reverence that's due to it. Appreciate it.
Hey, I really appreciate you guys both for what you have done and for what you're doing. Steve, your leadership with our nation's youth, pushing them through school. I can tell by looking at you, you are a coach of high standards, and I bet that there are some of your students that hate the fact that they're on your team, but they also love it, and I bet they look back on it with great pride.
Thank you. I've been fortunate to have coached a large number of young men that either gone into the military. I coached a couple guys that ended up in the 3rd Ranger Battalion. Coached young men who become firefighters, police officers, probation officers. A lot of service-oriented positions, and so I'm very proud of that fact.
And what school? Can you tell us where you coach now?
Yeah, at Wethersfield High School here in Connecticut. So it's in fact I'm in one of the buildings right now.
Well, I kind of figured it wasn't at your house when I could see the computer lab behind
the house. Yeah. So.
Hey, John, thank you for your service. Thank you for my freedom. One of the things that when people say thank you for your service to me, I'm kind of like, I didn't bring you lunch. That kind of makes me feel a little weird. But if somebody says thank you for my freedom, I'm like, damn straight. So thank you for my freedom. Keep it up, and we'll do what we can to support you.
Rangers lead the way, brother.
That beautiful rendition of Taps is a public domain recording created by a soldier or employee of the United States Army and as such is not eligible for copyright protection in the United States. Kenny Thomas' song Send Me is used by permission of Kenny Thomas. All other work or recording is original work or used by permission. This has been a presentation of Gallant Few's The New American Veteran, a proud member of the Heroes Media Group. Material may not be used without permission. All rights reserved.